This is Talk CNY, presented by NBT Bank, a semi-monthly podcast by Center State CEO, Central New York's premier leadership and economic development organization. Join us as we meet the people and explore the projects driving the regional economy forward.
This is Talk CNY, presented by NBT Bank. I'm Katie Zolkowski, Director of Communications at Center State CEO, and your host for Talk CNY. The future on-ramp facility in Syracuse needs to be a place where people from all over the community feel comfortable coming and utilizing resources that'll help them be successful. So a vital part of this planning and design process is community engagement and input. Helping to lead the community engagement efforts is the Urban Jobs Task Force Executive Director, Tylah Worrell. Tylah has been leading community engagement sessions and soliciting comments from the people that the future on-ramp facility aims to serve. Today on Talk CNY, presented by NBT Bank, Tylah joins me to talk about what she's heard so far and how that feedback will be incorporated into the future on-ramp space. Tylah, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
So to start off, I want to get to know you a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got to your current position as the Executive Director of the Urban Jobs Task Force and what attracts you to this work?
Well, thank you for that question. Actually, I try to use my time, talent, and treasures to be an impactful change and instill hope into others. And I do that through systems and connections. And so I've worked with youth, at-risk youth, and foster care systems, worked with veterans. And actually, even with the global pandemic, I was helping with the contact tracing initiatives.
Wow.
So once I graduated from Citizens Academy and I learned a lot about Syracuse history and also where Syracuse in the future, where we're going, I found a new passion and understanding that the economic landscape of Syracuse was changing. And so with an opportunity like this came up to become the executive director for Urban Jobs Task Force, which is an advocacy organization specifically geared towards economic equity, it seemed like it really was aligned with me and my personal mission for others. I really wanted to influence change at a higher level and to do it in a meaningful way for a place that I pretty much grew up in.
That's really great. I mean, it makes you the perfect person for the work that you're doing and related to On-Ramp now, which is really helping to lead these community engagement sessions and the community engagement efforts, trying to get the people who On-Ramp aims to serve to have their input in this whole process. So for people who don't know or haven't heard of On-Ramp yet, it's a state initiative that is planning to put 4 workforce development centers across New York State, and Syracuse will have the flagship facility. So what has the community engagement process looked like so far? How have you been collecting input, and who are the people that you're meeting with?
So first I wanted to say that this partnership with Center State CEO has been truly important to me and the organization as a whole. So we've been through this partnership having some engagement in the community, and how I've been doing that is I wanted to touch on all 4 quadrants of the city, and I've been doing it through kind of one-off hosting events, but also going into community events that are already going on where workforce development can kind of enhance the community's experience and having a discussion. So the focus groups, I've actually titled them "Get In Where You Fit In," because I've just had a personal mission to get people to really understand and really take in that the economic landscape for Syracuse is changing. It seems like for some, it's just kind of this far-fetched idea. And for a lot of people, especially in traditionally marginalized communities or people living in poverty, it's a far-fetched idea that a lot of people don't even believe that it's for them or these opportunities are for them, reasonably so. And so I've been kind of using this platform as a way for me to connect with the community, to let them know this change is coming. And with the semiconductor industry being of interest in America as a whole to take leadership globally, it just makes sense. The supply that is needed for the demand in this industry, we need all hands on deck. And so it's been looking like, open conversations, dialogue, allowing people to speak freely. It's been looking like also taking it outside of the focus groups and working with Center State CEO to create a electronic survey that hopefully can go out into the community far beyond like my one-to-one conversations with people. So yeah, it's been a very immersing and engaging conversation. It's been a very exciting for people.
Did you know much about semiconductors or any of the kind of advanced manufacturing world before engaging in these conversations? Are you learning somewhat along with the community, or did you have experience in the area beforehand?
No, this is a completely new world for me. So we actually had the opportunity to go to Northland, which is a workforce training hub in Buffalo, New York. And so that field trip kind of helped to expose me into the semiconductor industry a little bit more. And that experience was actually very energizing. And I even felt included and welcomed into that environment. Like, I was like, wait a second, maybe I could switch up my job for a second to be in the semiconductor industry. But then I was like, I remember who I was, and that's not my lane. So once I got a little bit more education and from the executive director there, got to actually see the facility there. And also when I got to go see the president speak, these have been my learning opportunities to really understand what this opportunity in the semiconductor industry really means, again, for America on a very macro level. And that is what has sparked my interest in saying that this is potentially the platform that's needed to instill the hope in people that I'm looking to do. I think that advocacy could be proactive and also reactive when necessary. So this is the proactive measure, right? Touching the community, informing them so that they understand what's going on and that they're able to educate other people on what's happening. But then once there's a clear understanding of what's happening, getting them excited and hopeful to even begin to reimagine what Syracuse could look like and this region could look like. So it's definitely been an exciting journey. I'm still learning as I go, and I'm very hopeful for this on-ramp initiative. And I'm hoping that, through the governor's initiative and through Center State CEO, that this data that we compile and we end up giving over will be utilized in an effective way to ensure that people are equitably included in this new economic landscape that's going to be Syracuse.
So in chatting with some of my Center State CEO colleagues who have been at some of the sessions with you, they say that you kind of guide the conversation through a series of a few questions. So I want to go through those questions with you kind of one by one and see what the community, how they've responded when you've put these questions in front of them. So kind of get an idea of what the feedback has been like at these engagement sessions so far. So the first one you ask is, what types of programming, services, or amenities would you like to see offered at the future Workforce Training Hub? And what would make you most likely to utilize those resources? So what do you hear from people when you ask this?
So traditionally you hear a lot of what we know about the social determinants of health. People need transportation, they need good health care, they need child care. And so those are the things that, and it makes sense, reasonably so. People need security, essentially, to even wrap their minds around reaching a level of self-actualization, right? So then when we dig a little bit deeper, and I know we're going to get into those questions, but essentially what people need is they need people that they've already been kind of connecting with and they already feel close. They need accessibility. They need inclusivity, and that's not just with saying, hey, how are you? We want to include you, but really intentional outreach and marketing strategies, being inclusive when it comes to language barriers and people with disabilities, inclusive of people with disabilities and language barriers. So yeah, we've been seeing a lot of feedback when it comes to really the wraparound services when it comes to that question. I can go on, but I'll...
So the next one is, if there was a center or resources that really could change your life, make you more successful, but you couldn't get to it, it's not right in your neighborhood, what would you need in order to make the trip and make the effort to get there? So what are you hearing from people then?
People really just need to know that these are tangible opportunities, that it's not just something that you want people to come to, and it's just a, check off of a list or to get certain numbers. They want to know that when they come into this facility, whether it's after work, after school, it's outside of their neighborhood, that they're going to really get help, and they're going to find people that genuinely care about them and will have a continuum of care with them, not just beforehand with the outreach, but when they're in there and even afterwards. So those are some of the comments and feedbacks that we've been getting.
So then you ask, what community organizations, resources, or other spaces in Syracuse make people feel welcome or are trusted by the community, and what makes them feel that way? So what do you hear when asking that?
Well, we hear a lot of, obviously, our community centers, our local libraries. So I've heard things like Peace Incorporated. I've heard workforce training programs like Jubilee Homes. These places have the wraparound services that people need. They're in convenient locations for people. And so really what they would like to see is people partnering and really enhancing what's already there, rather than, making something new with potentially people that don't understand them or haven't already built relationships with them and trust with them. These places have traditionally been able to tap into the community well and understand people well. They've said even organizations like my own coming into their spaces to educate and to talk and kind of get people geared in to, even if you don't necessarily see yourself in this space right now, what can you do? What are you interested in? Because the semiconductor industry is one part, but it's going to need other pieces to make it work. We're a part of the ecosystem, right? So they enjoy these conversations and reaching back to let them know, hey, there's still a place for you, and let me help you navigate through that. So yeah, that's kind of like a lot of the feedback that we've been getting. Obviously, that's a high-level overview. There's more detail-oriented work. So yeah.
Yeah. And the last question that I have here is, what kind of culture, environment, or representation would make you feel the most welcomed and included in a community resource center? And what helps create that sense of belonging? So I'm interested to hear what people have to say about that.
People are really saying if you want this to be effective and you really want people to be successful, they will need mentorship, and they will need you to really penetrate the youth, essentially. Like, there needs to be more programming, bringing it back to like our Big Brother, Big Sister programs. And it's not just for them to just have outreach and where you have a mentor just for that moment, and then once they're in the workforce training hub, someone takes their hand off of them. When they're in there, they need continuous mentorship. You possibly even need people who you've seen succeed in this pre-apprenticeship program or whatever it will look like, to then be assigned to you as your mentor and help you get from one place to the next. And then once you get in the jobs, the mentorship doesn't stop. So they're saying that needs to be incorporated. They want to see partnerships with our community centers, with those who already are doing the work and making the connections, and somehow intertwining this, not just having it be its own entity. This could be the one-stop shop, but making sure that it's inclusive and bringing together all parts of town. So that's pretty much kind of like what I've been seeing and hearing with that question as well.
It sounds like a lot of community feedback, a lot of really good stuff to incorporate into OnRamp. So I'm excited to talk more about it, but we are going to take a quick break here for a word from our presenting sponsor, NBT Bank.
I would recommend NBT Bank to any business. My name is Chris Palomino, and I'm the president of Atlas Fence.
Chris had decided to purchase Atlas Fence from the previous owner. He had previous connections at NBT Bank.
NBT Bank provided me equipment financing, doubling our entire production workforce. It's important to me as a business owner that the decisions of our banking relationship are made locally.
Welcome back. This is Talk CNY presented by NBT Bank. I'm Katie Zolkowski, Director of Communications at Center State CEO, and your host for Talk CNY. I'm joined today by Tylah Worrell, who is the Urban Jobs Task Force Executive Director, and she's helping to lead the community engagement efforts around on-ramp. Tylah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Katie.
So before the break, we were talking about the engagement sessions and what you've been hearing, specifically in response to a few questions and kind of how the sessions are set up. But I'm wondering if there is an overall takeaway for you, something that really sticks out, maybe a repeated message that people have communicated to you during this session so far.
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. And I really think for me, the biggest takeaway that I've been getting from each session is that people really want that connection. I think that connection piece is really crucial into ensuring that this on-ramp initiative will be a successful one. Like when I think even for myself and probably any successful person, it took, when they say it takes a village, it really took a village. You need your family. I was fortunate enough to have my parents, aunts, uncles, friends be able to support me, identifying mentors to help me. When I was in school, identifying teachers and professors who were able to help push me along. And even now, still in my position, I still seek support, and that is how I'm able to be successful. So I think for anyone, they need connection. You need you need to have a sense of belonging before you can reach even any form of self-actualization. And so I think if Center State CEO and this on-ramps initiative is able to really nail that piece when it comes to this workforce training hub, I definitely think we're going to be able to potentially see a lot of local people and in the workforce reach a higher level of self-actualization, and that's been really exciting to hear.
So we've talked a lot about what the community has said, but I'm wondering what your hopes for on-ramp are. Personally, what do you hope to see from this initiative and how it plays out in the community?
Well, my hope is that this will really be the turning of the tides for Syracuse. We have been impoverished for a very long time, arguably speaking, since the salt trade market. So that's roughly 100 years ago. And so I'm really hoping, with the understanding that this is on a macro level interest in America to be a leader globally, that we can put differences aside and really come together as a cohesive ecosystem and be inclusive, so that on a micro level, people who are willing to work for what they need and can really get in where they fit in can reach a level of financial stability and financial freedom, because I really think that that would solve a lot of the issues that we're seeing, at least in Syracuse and the surrounding areas in the region. So I really hope that I know that this initiative won't solve all the problems, but I'm hoping that it'll be a piece to the puzzle that will instill hope back into the community and will make people believe that they can actually reach higher potentials. There's a lot of talent that's trapped in poverty, and I know specifically in Syracuse. And so I'm hoping that when people can reach these higher levels of financial stability and financial freedom, we'll be able to get that potential more actualized, and you'll see more successful people like myself in positions of authority and positions of impactful change and just happy.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned that the Urban Jobs Task Force at the very beginning is an advocacy group as well. Why is advocacy so important to projects like on-ramp and overall equitable economies?
Well, I think it's first important to recognize that we're in a very crucial point in history, right? The potential to either widen or lessen the gap for the haves and have-nots. And with Governor Hochul's on-ramp initiative, we have the potential to do the latter for the community, which is lessen that gap for the haves and the have-nots. And so advocacy is important because it's a crucial component with this whole economic system. When you have projects like these and you couple it with advocacy for systematic, institutional, or any other policy change that could remove systematic barriers, that's when we can start to actually prepare local workforce, locals in the workforce to be more self-actualized and actually have an opportunity to be a part of this transformative opportunities that are within these historic economic investments. So I think that's why it's so important. And one example of that is what we advocated for with the I-81 project. It took community organizing and community advocacy to push power players into implementing local higher goals. And without that community organizing, community advocacy to push for federal laws that would establish these local hiring goals, I don't think that we would not be seeing the success that we're even seeing with this highway, big structural infrastructure, project. We wouldn't see it with these federally funded projects, So I think advocacy is largely a part of that ecosystem. Our Federal Highway Administration actually wrote about it in their roadmap and said that the work that Urban Jobs Task Force has done in this project has proven to be that component that has pushed the I-81 project to the success that we're seeing now. And actually, something that I'm actually proud to tell now is that we've actually had 3 local trades commit to taking out the GED requirement for locals that want to get into their membership because they see the benefit of having locals a part of their membership and working, and they know that if you just train people and give them the tools that they need through Syracuse Build pre-apprenticeship programs, they can be successful, and it's working out.
So it's really redefining some of what it means to be successful or have the qualifications going into these really in-demand careers.
Absolutely.
My last question for you is, what keeps you excited about this community? What kind of gets you up every day to go and do the work day in and day out?
That's a great question. So, Katie, I'm a young person, okay? And so what makes me excited about this is seeing that Syracuse has the opportunity to be what the next Houston or Atlanta or whatever is going to be. When you give people financial affluence and really give them opportunities and you give them exciting things to be a part of, you see a vibrant city, you see people reaching that self-actualization. So I am motivated and energized by the possibility of leading my community, the place that I grew up in, into a place that we have not seen for probably even ever in this town. So that's what keeps me motivated. Thanks for that question. That was amazing.
It's a great note to end on. Tylah, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Center State CEO's podcast, Talk CNY, presented by NBT Bank, is available on clickcny.com and all major podcast platforms. After each episode, you can join us on Click, where we'll continue to talk about this topic and provide additional resources and links. In Click, you can listen to or watch every episode of Talk CNY. Click is Center State CEO's digital chamber platform, where our members connect, learn, and receive support from our staff. For new episode reminders, be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast listening app. If you're enjoying Talk CNY, consider leaving a quick review or a 5-star rating.